So when I picked this engine up the other night, the guy who was selling it to me was telling me how he had the valve covers off at some point and mentioned some loose things. So also one side of the engine's got push rods, the other they're out. There's 4 of them laying in the valley here. We don't know what happened to the rest. So I think right now I'm going to take off the valve covers just to see what's going on in there. So far everything looks good on this side. I mean, the rockers all seem like they're in place where they should be. Guide plates. $113 is the casting number on these heads. These are the Corvette L98 aluminum heads. The F-bodies had an L98 option also, but they had cast iron heads, I believe. Okay, so on this side, we're missing a rocker. That's kind of strange. And this was also the side that had the push rods taken out. We don't know why. The guy really, he said he didn't really know anything about this engine. He bought it from a friend of his whose father supposedly had the engine. And it wasn't clear if he was the one who took it out of a Corvette or he bought it this way. So we really don't know much on the history here. But it was a little strange that that one rocker would be missing. And so besides from the one missing rocker arm and the 4 missing push rods, there's 1 missing water pump bolt and looks like 1 missing crank bolt for the flex plate. I'm gonna have to make a little list of things I need to get. Taken out the plugs last night when we looked. I believe these were the 2 rear ones. Kind of on the dark side. Nothing too crazy. And then this cylinder had a very clean look to it, which was odd. And then the front cylinder is the number 2. Fairly decent, I guess. Anyway, I think the plan is, like I said, I gotta order some parts. And I need to get an engine stand to get it up off this tire so I can rotate the engine over. I wanna pull the pan and just take a look and see what's going on in there. Make sure there's no major catastrophes in there. Everything looks like this. You know, I'm probably just gonna run it as is. I'm gonna try to clean it up as best I can. And check all the bolts, make sure everything's torqued. But I'm not really seeing anything that looks too horrible at this point. But, you know, as I go along, we'll see what turns up. Okay, so just after an initial quick inspection, so far what I need to get is I'll get a new crank bolt. I need 1 rocker arm, 4 push rods are missing, valve cover gaskets, missing 1 head bolt, and like I said, I'm gonna get a stand and rotate the engine, take the oil pan off, so I'll get an oil pan gasket too. And hopefully see what's going on in there, make sure everything looks okay, and then we'll go from there. I ordered a leak down tester, and I'm just going to check every cylinder to make sure that there's no problems as far as air leakage, whether it be bad rings or bad valves or anything like that. Once I determine all of that looks good, then I have to decide how I'm going forward. My initial thought was just putting it in as is, basically just cleaning it up. It's a stock L98 as far as I know. It's rated at like 245 net horsepower, 350 net pounds of torque. What's in the Camaro right now, the 305 HO, is rated at 190 horsepower and 240 pounds of torque. So already it's a pretty big jump up from what I have. Now, while everything's out, it would be a lot easier to do upgrades like a cam, valve springs, that sort of thing. But the intake manifold that I already bought, which was supposed to go on the 305 and now I'm going to use on here, is the Edelbrock Performer EPS, which is designed for more of a mild stock motor. They say, I believe, it works best on an engine that has the torque peak at around 3,400 RPM, which this is very close to that area. However, I could put another cam in it and nothing even extreme, just basically a mild cam. The specs on this cam, I'll post them up on the stock. They're very small. It's really designed for torque. These things had the TPI fuel injection setup, which really was designed for torque, not high RPM flow. Putting the EPS manifold on here with a carburetor is already gonna help in the upper RPM range, but it's still probably gonna be done by 5,500 RPM. If I do a mild cam, something like, you know, a mid 400s lift and like a 220, 215, 220 duration, I'm probably not going to really lose much torque on the low end, and I'm just going to gain a lot more horsepower. I could probably gain 50 horsepower. But again, like, I don't want to start throwing lots of money and parts at this if I'm not even sure how well it runs. You know, the ideal situation would be to get it in the car, run it, make sure everything's cool, and if it is, then upgrade it. But in reality, I don't have time for all that. So I'll see what the leak down tells me. If everything's looking really good, then maybe I'll consider. But then not only do I have to buy a cam and valve springs, and it's a roller cam, so you're talking 350, 375 for a cam, maybe another 100 for valve springs. Then it would be kind of silly to reuse the Camaro's stock exhaust manifold, so then I'd be looking to get at least short tube headers, most likely short tube. I don't really want to get into the whole long tube deal on an F-body. It just seems like a huge pain, and I already put a new exhaust, catback exhaust on here just last year, and I want to keep it, so it would work better with the shorty headers. That setup's like another 500 at least for the headers and the Y-pipe. And then I would really be better off going with a better intake, like an Edelbrock Performer RPM, which has better flow in the upper RPM range. But then that's another expense. So when you're talking cam, springs, headers, intake, it's adding like another $1,000 to the whole deal. This was really supposed to be a low buck upgrade, which it would be if I just leave it as it is. But then, you know, we had the issues with the transmission is not all that great, and the prices on redoing transmissions these days is just insane to me. I mean, I've been out of the game for a while. Back when I was in my 20s, you know, you could get a transmission rebuilt for $500 for stock rebuilt. Now the going rate seems to be $1,500. And that really blows my whole budget here. I wanted to do this whole upgrade on this Camaro for under $2,000. So if I can get the transmission done myself, which I've never done before, I could really save a lot. Then maybe I could go for the cam upgrade. So there's just a lot of things in play, a lot of variables. So I'm just gonna have to take it one step at a time. And the first step really is, like I said, getting the missing parts, doing a leak down test. Really, it's probably the best thing to do before I touch anything else on it. Because if it's no good and it needs to be torn down, there's really no point in, you know, buying all those other parts right now until I see what I'm dealing with. Even cleaning it. It's not even worth trying to clean it until I know if it's actually good. If it's wasted, then I got to see how bad it is. If it's something I can fix myself, great. If it needs a complete rebuild with machine work and everything and getting into the thousands, it's probably just not going to happen. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Nowhere Fast Garage. Please subscribe so you don't miss any updates. And I appreciate all the comments. So yeah, thanks everyone and see you soon.